Miami-Dade College, and the Health Channel. My special guest today is the one and only master storyteller, Andy Henriquez. He has become globally known as the guy that tells a great story, but more importantly, can help you tell your unique and very important story. Let's sit back and watch that conversation.
All right, okay. Let's rock and roll.
Oh, let's rock and roll. And everybody, it is my pleasure to bring on to my show the one and only storyteller, Andy Henriquez. What's going on, my brother?
I'm doing fantastic, Pete. How you doing, man?
Doing great, and it's all about telling the world who we are and our story, and we're gonna kill some myths today on this conversation, because at the end, everyone will be convinced. I promise you that your story is very, very important. So much to go over, so much to talk about, Andy, and you are known around the country, the world, as the master storyteller. But before we talk about everything behind that and the academy and everything that you do, let's hear a little bit about your story.
Yeah, fantastic, Pete. So, Pete, my parents, I don't know if you know this or not, but my parents are immigrants. They are originally from Haiti. And they wanted me to have success, man, in this country. So they told me, listen, the key to success is you got to go to school, got to get a good education, and you got to get a good job. Mm-hmm. And so I followed the script. I went to school at Florida State University. I got my undergraduate degree in accounting. Yes, accounting. I got my master's in corporate accounting. And while I was in the master's program, I decided to study for the CPA exam, took the CPA exam and passed it. So, Pete, wouldn't you agree that I followed the script, my man? Would you say I followed the script?
You followed it to the T, and it's got to be just a really amazing thing to hear stories about CPAs.
Yeah, exactly, man. And so here I am, man. I ended up landing a job with one of the big four public accounting firms, company by the name of PricewaterhouseCoopers. I'm working with this company. I got every reason to do well. But Pete, I am miserable, man. I'm waking up every day to the sound of an alarm clock. I'm jumping out of my bed. I'm fighting traffic. And every day when I'm showing up to this job, I'm saying to myself, there has got to be more than this. And Pete, for about 1.5 years, man, I thought about taking a chance on myself. I thought about becoming an entrepreneur. I thought about becoming a speaker. And I would literally talk myself into taking a big leap of faith and going after my goals and my dreams. And then I would talk myself right back out of it. And maybe some people who are listening in right now, they could relate to having something that they wanted to pursue, to only talk themselves into it and then also talk themselves out of it. And so for me, man, the defining moment was December of 2004. That's when I finally took the leap of faith. I decided to go after my goals and my dreams of becoming a speaker. I ended up going to this seminar and this workshop, and there was this high energy, dynamic speaker in the front of the room. Some of you who are listening in right now, you're going to be familiar with him. If you're not, you need to go Google him as soon as you're done listening to this. It's the legendary Les Brown. He's considered one of the top 5 speakers on the planet. And I remember being in that room, Pete, and I would watch how everyone was leaning in, how engaged they were when he was sharing and telling stories. And I just ran up to him at the end of that presentation. I was like, sir, if you could just teach me how to be able to communicate like you, if you could teach me how to be able to tell stories. And I end up enrolling into his program. And as they say, the rest is history. Over the next couple of years, I would literally go from seminar to seminar, workshop to workshop, hiring so many different people in the industry to learn how to communicate, learn how to be able to share stories. And as a result of that, man, it's really been a blessing. Today, I have clients like Bacardi, Office Depot, Pratt & Whitney, Accenture, Google, NASA. I've had the opportunity to be in Black Enterprise and Huffington Post and share awesome stages. And I share that to remind everybody they are listening to a former CPA, a former accountant, Pete. So some people sort of scratch their heads. They're like, dude, how'd you go from being a CPA, an accountant, to being a master storyteller? Well, that's how the transition happened, man. I followed the script only to realize that it wasn't what I wanted. And I took a leap of faith to go after my goals and my dreams. It's been a journey, but now I'm so grateful, man, because now I get to empower others who are just like me, maybe heading down a course where they realize that that's not the thing that they're passionate about. And I help them to bring forth their story so that they can have that confidence and clarity to move towards their true calling, man.
Les Brown. I mean, I've seen him twice in person and said hello to him a couple of times. And yeah, I totally agree with you. He's one of the top 5 in the world. And he's a local product, man. He's from Miami.
Miami, Florida.
Grew up in Liberty City.
City.
And his story is a very interesting one. You said a lot of powerful things as you were sharing your background and your experience, goal setting and taking a leap of faith and being bold. You and I know that if we're ever going to get to that next level, all of those things are important. We can't just wish that one day we achieve greatness, or we open up that great business, or we make all this money, or we can help our family financially. There are things that have to happen along the way. And you also mentioned purpose and clarity. All these things are important. But I want to ask you a question, man. We know that we have to follow a certain path to be successful. But what I see a lot is folks that get stuck and wait for that perfect moment in their minds that, I'm not going to make this move until everything is in place. Everything is just perfect, whatever that means. Okay? Can you share a little bit with our viewers and listeners why that's not such a good idea?
Yeah, it's interesting you say that, because I used to be one of those individuals. When I was still with PricewaterhouseCoopers, man, let me tell you something. When I was thinking about taking that leap of faith and stepping out here to become a speaker, a coach, an entrepreneur, I started like sort of having this internal negotiation. Well, if I could just hit a certain level at the company, if I could be a senior for at least 2 years, then I'll do it. Well, if I have the right amount of money in my bank account, and then I'll do it. But what happened is there was a couple of times I was on the client side. I was an auditor. We'd be working on the client side, and I had senior managers, people who were, my seniors on the job by about 4 or 5 years. And when we're on the client side, it gets late night, people start opening up. They start sharing their personal dreams and aspirations. And I'll never forget this. I was on the client site. It was probably about 3 of us working. Everyone had been with the company longer than me. And we started going around the table, and everybody was talking about the things that they wanted to do. So one of them was mentioning how they always wanted to open up their own bakery and have their own business. You're like, you're an accountant, you want to have a bakery? Somebody else was talking about how they always want to become like a sports manager of some sort. And we were going around the room, and one by one, the thing that they all had in common, there was something else that they wanted to do. The other thing that they all had in common was that they were waiting before they took action. And the third thing that they had in common that they probably didn't know, there was a great probability that the longer that they waited, the greater the probability that they were not going to take action.
That's right.
And so for me, that was inspiration, man. I tell you, where I realized this, that there's like no such thing as perfect timing. And as one of my mentors would say, you got to make your move before you're ready. You got to sort of jump and grow your wings on the way down. And so for anybody out there that's sort of sitting on the sideline, you're waiting on the perfect timing. You're waiting on somebody's approval. You're waiting to have the right amount of money in your bank account. I want to make sure that you understand that right now is the perfect time. And the reason why is because the reality of it is none of us really know how much time we have to execute. And when you're on your deathbed, let me tell you something. You never hear anybody talk about how they regret the things that they took action on. When people get older, they're on their deathbed, their final moments, their regret is always what they didn't do. Mark Twain has a quote. He said, 20 years from now, you will be more regretful, more disappointed by the things that you did not do as opposed to the things that you did do. So let me help you out. If you're waiting on the perfect timing is right now. You're listening into this conversation, and this is an auditory call out to you to make your move right now. Wes Whitney Young said, it's better to be prepared for an opportunity and not have one than to have an opportunity and not be prepared. Like right now is the opportunity, and you need to be fully prepared to walk into that opportunity, and great things are going to happen. So stop waiting on the sidelines. You're only delaying your goals and your dreams.
You really are. And you are, and again, Les Brown talks about this in your deathbed. Think about all the things that you wanted to do and you never did, and you have the ghost of all the wishes you had and everything. And how dare you, not do this? You were born to be great and to do certain things here, and we're going to start pivoting now to this idea about telling one story. I hear so many people, and I'll start with myself too. And I'll be totally transparent and honest here, where you look at, all right, I had an interesting life and it was important to me and my family, but, when I look at it, it's not that exciting. Why is it not true, okay, when people say, I don't have a story to tell?
Yeah, the reason why I can identify with this, Pete, is because I was also that guy. I was the guy who said, I don't have a story to tell. My very first time really training in this area, going to a storytelling workshop, I show up to this workshop. They call up this guy to the front of the room. The guy comes to the front of the room and he starts sharing his story. He talks about how he was a successful real estate broker. He had an amazing year. He goes to a year-end party to enjoy himself. While he's at the year-end party, they invite him into a back room. He goes into the back room and somebody hands him a pipe. They're like, take a hit, Dwight. And Dwight's like, no, I'm not going to take a hit. They're like, come on, Dwight, take a hit. And Dwight takes the pipe and he takes a hit. And he talks about, Pete, in that moment, he became an instant drug addict. He ended up abandoning his wife, his children. And for the next couple of years, he's going from drug house to chase his next hit. And then he talks about one day he wakes up in an abandoned house, no running water, no electricity, face on a shag carpet, and he has what he calls a come to Jesus moment. And he calls up a family member who calls his wife that he had abandoned for several years with their children. And she comes and picks him up as if he had been away on a 3-day business trip. So you have a remarkable story of redemption, and then also this story of forgiveness. And then there's another lady came to the front of the room, Pauline Ahi, no arms and no legs. And all of us were fascinated because we're already looking at her. The lady had no arms and no legs, and they start interviewing her. They're like, what happened to you? She's like, I was born this way. And they're like, okay, well, tell us more. She said, well, they told my parents to put me in a special institution, but they brought me home and they loved on me. And they showed me how to do as much as I could. And she says, you won't believe this, but I can write. And we watched her. She put like a pen between her chin and her shoulders, and she started writing on the table. And we were like, wow. She said, I can drive. And we're like, no way. She showed us pictures of like a specialized vehicle. And the whole time I'm sitting there, my mouth is on the ground and my heart is beating fast. Now, here's the reason why my heart's beating fast. I was supposed to be the third person up. And so after hearing Dwight, man, right after hearing Dwight and Pauline, Pete, I freak out, man. I run into the bathroom and I'm in the bathroom. And I'm pacing back and forth. I was like, I grew up in the nice suburbs in Florida, Plantation, Florida. I was a straight A student. I got a full scholarship at Florida State University. I graduated summa cum laude. I got my master's degree in corporate accounting. I worked for one of the big 4 public accounting firms. My life is flashing through my eyes and I'm thinking to myself, like, I don't have a story. I don't have a story. One of my friends comes and bangs on the door. She's like, Andy, come out. I'm like, I'm not coming out. She said, Andy, come out. I said, I'm not coming out. I don't have a story. She said, Andy, come out. I said, I don't have a story. Didn't you just hear Dwight's story? Didn't you just hear Pauline's story? She said, Andy, relax. She said, man, stop comparing your story to other people's story. And Pete, what I realized is that I'm not the only one that does that, man. What happens is we can't see the picture when we're in the frame, right? That's one of those things that I've heard Les Brown say so many times. There, oftentimes you are so close to your own personal story that you undervalue it. And so oftentimes we need somebody who's on the outside, which is what I get the opportunity to do so often for my clients. We need somebody who's on the outside that can just find the simplicity, right? Your story doesn't have to be a story of tragedy. If you have one of those stories, then by all means, and you've healed, share the story because you're going to help other people to heal. But even if you have an ordinary story, I consider my story to be an ordinary story. But guess what? A lot of people can relate to going after a goal, a dream, or something that they desired, only to realize that there has to be more than this, only to realize that it's not exactly what they anticipated or what they thought that they were going to get in their lives. So even as simple as that is, so many people can relate to that. And we undervalue our story And here's the thing that we can't forget though, Pete. We are hardwired, man. We are, as human beings, we're always seeking connections. And here's something I say all the time. The shortest distance between you and your next customer, the shortest distance between you and your audience, the shortest distance between you and those that you're looking to influence is a well-told story. And that's why we want to literally find a way to create a bridge between ourselves and the people that we're looking to influence. And there's no better way to do that than by sharing and telling stories.
You know, as you were sharing this part of your story, I'm thinking most people don't connect with these really tough, tragic, sad stories, right? They hear it and they go, wow, but most people connect to a story that's not as dramatic because,
Absolutely.
and they can relate to that a lot better than the big one. It's like, oh my God, look at that tragedy. What's going on? Who am I? That kind of, hey, the Master Story Academy is very interesting. We have some mutual friends that have attended your academy and have come out of that, to that next level. Tell us about the academy. What is it, and who should attend, and why?
Absolutely. Yeah. So my Master Storyteller Academy is really for people who are entrepreneurs, speakers, coaches, or what I like to even refer to as someone who's like in a transition period. Maybe they're working a 9 to 5. They are feeling like a pulling, a calling, as I like to call, to step into a different direction. Maybe they're just like me when I was in corporate America. They're thinking about writing a book. They're thinking about launching their own podcast. They are thinking about becoming a speaker. They're thinking about becoming a coach, and they just need some more confidence and they need more clarity. Well, my Master Storyteller Academy is an opportunity for them to step away from the busyness of life and invest 3 days in themselves. And over those 3 days, myself, as well as my team, we help them to be able to leverage one of their personal stories and to craft that personal story in such a way that it allows them to be able to capture the attention of their ideal customer and client, to connect with them emotionally, and then be able to inspire them to be able to take action. And so at our Master Storyteller Academy, we equip people who are ready to change the world. We equip people who are ready to make their mark, to leverage one of their own personal stories and use it as a magnet to attract more opportunities, to attract more clients. And so over those 3 days, it's really cool because there's 3 Ds as we like to focus on. The first thing is we help them really to be able to discover what their story is. We know, Pete, we're having this conversation. A lot of people come to our academy questioning and wondering, number one, do I even have a story? Is it worth telling? Or they're like, I have a lot of stories, but I have no idea which one is the right story to tell. Mm-hmm. The other thing is, in addition to helping them discover the story, we help them to develop it. So, storytelling, most people, unfortunately, are doing it all wrong, right? When they're telling stories, they're going in chronological sequence. They're not connecting with people. They're long-winded. There's no point that they're making. So we show them how to be able to connect with people emotionally, how to find the universal theme in the message so that they can actually truly connect regardless of who the audience is, how to have like the structure that is used in the same blockbuster movie so that can get people's attention and keep people's attention. But then there's a third component, which is so important, which is learning how to deliver. You see, most people, the reason why they don't get out, do what you're doing right now, Pete, empowering their audience. The reason why they don't get in front of groups, the reason why they don't speak to people about their products and their services is because they're lacking confidence. And that lack of confidence is because they have never been in a true environment where they feel comfortable, where they're being coached and they're being mentored to help them to be able to build that confidence. So over those 3 days, we are really adamant about creating a safe environment for our people and giving them opportunities to practice and share and tell their stories and giving them really awesome feedback and helping them make real-time adjustments. And it's the reason why so many people leave our training. And as a result of taking our training, as you know, some of our past clients, They go on to do TED Talks. They go on to launch their podcast. They go on to attract more customers and clients for their coaching business. They go on to write their books. They go on to increase their fees. They go on to speak on bigger stages. And the reason why is because now they're equipped and they got this powerful story and they have the confidence to tell this story. And now they could use it on stage, off stage, on the internet, emails, all kind of different areas, man. So we're grateful for the work we get to do at the Master Storyteller Academy.
There's 3 things that I jotted down so I wouldn't forget it. Very, very important. Number 1, all of us are unique in the sense that we have our own style. All right. Another thing is, when you tell your story, it's you. You don't have to be Les Brown. You don't have to be Henriquez. You don't have to be Pete Torre. You are your own person, right?
Absolutely.
And if you got your story, out in a way that you can resonate, you don't have to pretend or talk like somebody else, all right? Or be outgoing. You can tell your story in a very emphatic and authentic way that you will connect. You will connect. You will also appreciate, I believe, what your value is. By digging down deep inside yourself and bringing that story out, you will have a greater appreciation of your value. And the other thing that I wrote down here is that you hear so many business owners that they don't like selling. They love everything about their business, but they don't like when they got to sell and close a deal, that's when they freeze up there. And everything that you've been talking about here is a way of not really having to worry about selling, because what you're going to do is attract the right client, with your story and what you're saying. So everybody can rest at ease that doesn't like to sell, is that your product will sell, okay, based on making that connection and attracting the right clients. Buddy, we've got about a minute left, and I know that we're right around the corner from your next academy. Can you give us briefly when that's going to happen and how the viewers and listeners can register?
Absolutely. So the next Master Storyteller Academy and final one for this year is going to be December 9th through the 11th. And so we would love for those of you that say, wow, this is something I'd love to take advantage of. Just head over to masterstorytelleracademy.com. I'll say that again, masterstorytelleracademy.com. When you get there, you're going to want to click on the button that says apply, and you're going to fill out the application, and you're going to get an opportunity to talk to someone on my team. We're going to learn more about you, tell you all the details about the academy, make sure you're a good fit for the training. And if you are, we're looking forward to transforming your story over those 3 days. masterstorytelleracademy.com.
Buddy, absolutely fantastic. I love it. And I'm going to grow up one day to have the energy that you have, buddy, because it's off the charts, man. It really is. Hey, man, thank you so much. And blessings to you and your family. And let's get out there and tell our stories to the world, because everybody wants to hear from you.
Absolutely. Thanks for having me, Pete. So glad to hang out with you and your family here, man.
Take care, buddy.
Awesome. Thank you.
Bye-bye. All right, everybody, you heard from the master storyteller, Andy Henriquez. Yes, you have an important story to share with all of us. For more information, I'm going to ask you to go back and think about being part of the next academy. Thanks to all of you that keep writing and sending your comments, because, again, we do this show for you. We're here to inform and to inspire you to grow your life and to take your business to that next level. I'm going to ask you to follow me on Facebook, Instagram, and LinkedIn. And if you got a moment, subscribe to my YouTube channel, Pete Torre. You could also hear this show on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, and TuneIn Radio. Thank you so much for being with us here today. Have a fantastic week. God bless.